Hi, I'm Tom Jones, and welcome again to another free art lesson. I'm going to show you how to do textured pots today. It's an easy way of doing it. A lot of folks, what they'll do is they'll overpaint the area of the pots. I've got a little wall that it's standing on also, and I'll show you how to do that. But many times, a person wants to paint the entire pot and then come back and put shadows in it. I'm going to show you an easy way of doing it without putting a lot of paint down. Let me take a little bit of some light color, and I'm just going to do a dry brush effect across part of the pot. And then we'll come back and we'll put another little color across there. I'll put a couple little, dots from my spray bottle in that area and so forth to create a little area of texture. I'll even come along and put a couple little dots with my little spray bottle of some yellow ochre in there. Just a touch, that's all you need. Okay, let me come back. We'll take a little bit of the burnt sienna and we'll put just a couple of brush strokes of burnt sienna across there as well. We'll pick up a little bit of the yellow ochre and put just a couple of brush strokes of the yellow ochre in there, just to create the look of texture. That's all I'm going to do with that area. I'm going to come down and paint a little bit in the wall area, then I'm going to dry it. We'll do the shape of the pots. We'll put some floral in it, some leaves and so forth. You'll have an interesting little area with textured pots. Let me come down and take a little bit of the ochre, and let me clean that brush out thoroughly. I've got a little mud in the palette here, so let me get rid of that. Go get some yellow ochre. We'll mix up some nice clean yellow ochre in this case. We'll put down just a little bit of yellow ochre in a couple of places. I'll pick up a little bit of my orangey color here, my light red, permanent red light. We'll put a little bit of that in there. So we've got that, and then I'm going to dry this, and then I'm going to come back. We'll have some dark around the outside. We'll have some interesting little area with the pots. Now the painting is completely dry, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and start putting some more information in here for you with the wall and so forth. We'll paint some darks around the outside. Let me take my brush here and put in some more color on my area of the wall. Let's get that done first and make this a little more interesting than it is. Just some interesting shapes on the wall here and there to make that more interesting. We'll take a little bit of our quinacridone rose. We'll mix up a little ultramarine blue deep with that, get a nice juicy color. Add some burnt sienna to that area. Come in and put another area of color in to make it interesting. We want the wall to be an interesting wall, not just a plain old ho-hum wall that looks like it was built to perfection. Take and put a little bit of wash across here, just a light wash. We'll dry it again. I'll put a little lip at the top of the wall and so forth, but we want to make it interesting, so have an interesting wall to look at. I'll just kind of pat some of the excess color there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and start putting some of the darks around the top part of this floral area. I'm going to come over and grab some of my dark green. In this case, I'm going to get some of my hooker green deep, and we'll start putting some of that color behind here. I want to get it nice and dark, so I'm going to add some ultramarine blue deep to it. We'll come around the side of it, create an interesting edge to the side of the pot, like so. As I get closer to the top area, I'm going to get a little lighter because I want to make sure that I can put some floral in there and not have to worry about that. So I'm going to take and put maybe a little cerulean blue toward the top up here with the green. Keep that area a little lighter. I've got a lighter green over here. We'll come across the top and put a little bit of that color up in here, like so. Coming down this way here, we'll put a little more darker right there. I think we're okay. We can get away with that. Along the edge of the pot here, along the edge of the pot here. We're simply just creating an edge around this pot by putting some color above the pot area. I'll come back, grab a little cerulean blue again. We'll put a little bit of that color up here as well. Nice sharp edge along the top of where the pots are to define. Now you can see the edge of the pots where you are. All right, let's fill this area in a little bit here. We'll come around this side as well and put some color here on this side. Nice and dark on that side. Pick up the excess color. Pick up my larger brush. Let's pick up some ultramarine blue deep. Add that into our color. I've got so much color going on my palette here, I have to be very careful that they don't contaminate one another. Come to the edge of my wall with a nice dark color there. Now you can see the edge of the wall. I'm not going to paint all the way out here. That's not what the lesson plan is. It's really about the texture. But this sort of gives you a showcase of what to expect here. I'm going to lift that color out a little bit there. I'm going to dry this with my hair dryer, put some floral in here, and we'll separate these pots. You'll have some interesting pots. Now let me get this back in the center again. It's always an interesting dilemma as to what side of the pot you want to make dark and which side you want to make light. You know, I can make this side dark, and I can make that light. I can make this dark and make that light. So I have a lot of choices here. But I also could come over, go dark, 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 and that way I only have to contend with one light area. So I might go that route. Let me take my round brush. Now you'll notice here I've got some green up in there, and I got some of my sienna down here. So my suggestion would be, let's start here with a dark and come up and just have a little dark shadow here. But I'm going to have this an irregular or interesting dark shadow. I'm going to add a little blue to it to get it just a little richer and darker, to make it more interesting and have it stand out. So I'll come in and do a little darker. Then I'm going to switch. I'm going to come in and do a little bit of my sienna. I want a nice rich sienna color here. So I'll come down and just bring that color down. And then I'll do the same thing with that. I'll bring this color in and make it an interesting shape along the edge of that pot. And take a little bit of my quinacridone rose at this point, add a little blue to it, a little more rose, and add a little touch of that color in there to get it even a little darker. Now the key is be very careful at this point, because if you're not careful, you could wind up with a mess here of colors running. So we're going to be just a little careful here. All right, so we got the edge of that pot. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to soften a little bit of this hard edge here. I don't want that much hard edge. So we'll just soften it slightly. Now I've got a nice dark edge along there. Now what I want to do is I want to come over and do the same idea here. Here I can use all of my darks along here, because this is all in the area of the sienna colors. Let's take a little bit more of the dark. Put this under the lip of this one. This one happens to have a lip on it. Same thing, make it interesting, not just a straight edge. Like so. So I've got a dark area there. Let's make it maybe just even a little darker than that. A little rose, a little blue. The darker the better. See that? It jumps out at you now. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that powerful dark. It's the darks that give you the drama in your painting, not the lights. All right, over here, I've got another area that's green on the lip up here. So let's see what we can do with that. We've got this area here. So we'll just come in and put a little lip on the edge of that. Then I've got this over here, this last pot. I'll come in and do the same idea here. Again, we'll mix up a nice rich color. Make that interesting. Let me make sure you can see what I'm doing here. The thing to do is to take your time with this because you're working with a small area. It's a little delicate. You want it to look right. So just take your time with it. Don't rush it. Same old thing. Just have an interesting shape to the shadow, not a static shape. Up at the top, I've got some green up here. So let's address that. Under this lip here, we're going to have a shadow effect there. The reason you saw me put the green there was because there was green there already. The reason you saw me put the brown here was there was brown here already. So anytime you have a green area, put a darker value of green. Anytime you have a brown area, put a darker value of brown. Now, one other little thing we can do here is put a little lip underneath of this wall to give it a little more interest as a shadow, and a little darker in some areas. Make it interesting, like so. Then what we'll do is soften part of that edge so it's not a hard edge everywhere. Then what I can do is dry this again, and I'll put some floral in there, and it'll add a little ambiance to the whole plan. All right, let me put some floral in the pots for you here. Let's take my round brush, my number 8 round, a little bit of our Hooker Green Deep, maybe a touch of our Ultramarine Blue, and let's not get carried away with it, but we'll put just a few areas of floral in this particular pot to give it a little more look of realism or to anchor the subject matter. And we'll just do it in a couple of them. Don't do it in all of them, just a couple. Mix up the color again, get it a little darker area. There's an easy way of adding a little floral and then painting your textured pots. Very simple approach. You can do this in a more elaborate painting if you want, but here's a simple approach on doing texture. Don't overpaint the area, underpaint it. Keep it very simple with a little dry brush and use a different couple of colors here. I've used a little green as well as some sienna and ochre in there. Have a little fun with this. I hope you've enjoyed this lesson plan. I'm Tom Jones, and thanks for watching.